Well, we got the first one right up there on the screen right now, kind of what you were alluding to there with Jamar Chase. The buy or sell question is, he is the most important player. Obviously, I agree with everything you said about how important he is, but is he the most important player if you had to pick? Are you buying or selling that?
I think I'm buying that he is our most important player. You can point to a couple guys on the defense, Trey Hendrickson. He's obviously going to have to be a disruptor, but I think it's no question that Jamar Chase is our best player. Oh, no! Oh, okay. We are having an emergency alarm in our office. I don't know what to do. I guess if it rings again,
Yeah.
we'll go again.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not the first time this has happened, Stone,
Okay.
by the way.
All right.
It's been many a times that we've had shows live here. It seems like they only happen at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I don't know why they can't ever get them in 3 p.m., but the alarm was going off for a quick second, and it stole my train of thought. But Jamar Chase, he's the best player on the team. He is. And you could argue that he's the best player on the team even if Joe Burrow is there. We talk about Joe Burrow being a top 4 player, top 4 quarterback in the league. Jamar Chase is a top 2 wide receiver at worst. He's either 1 or 2. Him and Justin Jefferson. You're going to see both play this weekend. I think Jamar Chase is absolutely the most important player on this team going forward. Say you?
I'm going to sell that personally. I hear everything you're saying about how important he is, and I agree that the success of the team going forward is certainly going to depend largely on Jamar Chase, but I would say it's Jake Browning. He plays the quarterback position. He touches the ball in every single play. And the reality of the situation is if Jake Browning goes out there and throws 3 interceptions every single game, the Bengals probably are going to lose every single game the rest of the season. He has to do a better job of taking care of the football, and he also has to find opportunities to get the ball to his playmakers down the football field, right? Yeah, we can talk about, let's go under center, let's turn around, let's hand the ball off, let's run these wide receiver screens. That's all good, and that can win you a few games, but if you really want to stick around, be in the thick of this playoff race as the season comes down to the wire, a time in which you hope Joe Burrow could possibly return, you're going to have to lean on him to make some plays. That's just the reality of playing quarterback in the National Football League, especially with the defense that Cincinnati has. Can they improve? Can they get a little bit better? Can they be a tick above league average? I think that is in the realm of possibility. But for them to just ascend out of nowhere into a top 10 defense in the National Football League where they're not giving up more than 20 points a game, I don't think that is realistic. And, it's maybe a little bit unfair that there's so much pressure on Jake Browning, but at the same time, he's a quarterback in the National Football League, and he's replacing Joe Burrow. So if I had to pick one player specifically, I would pick Jake Browning, but I do understand that if he's going to have success and if this team is going to have success, they're going to have to get it to Jamar Chase a lot. But if I'm picking one, I say Browning.
Who do you think the last person to wear a buttoned-up shirt on off the bench was?
I don't know, Casey or nobody?
Casey was a good call. I don't even know if Casey owns a buttoned-up shirt, maybe. No, it's Tom. Tom was the only one to ever wear a buttoned-up shirt. I don't know if anyone else ever has. You look good. What's the purpose, or what was the thought behind the button-up shirt? Because you look great, Stone.
I appreciate that. No real purpose going out to dinner tonight, so I figured just, one fit. Don't have to, wear something else here and then change, save a little bit on the laundry side of things. But I don't know. Maybe I'll just going forward, I'll rock the button-up. I kind of like it.
Where are we going to dinner? Where are we getting some food?
Just somewhere, downtown. My birthday's coming up, so going out with the folks tonight downtown. So
you don't want to tell me, do you? You don't want to tell me, do you?
Yeah, we'll keep it on the down low, but yeah.
That sounds like a Ruby's dinner to me. If I've ever heard one.
I don't know about that.
Never been. Everyone tries to sell me. This is that was a favorite bit with Elliot on the show. Is he used to sell me on going to Ruby's, and how he would sell me on going to Jeff Ruby's is like, you got to try their mac and cheese.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's fantastic, but selling me on a $200 bill because their mac and cheese is good is a tough sales point.
That's fair.
That's a tough sales point. It's fair. It'd be like you trying to sell me on $1 million home, and it's like, yeah, but the toilets flush great, bro. Like they got great plumbing in this building. And it's like, yeah, I'd hope so. I'd hope they'd have it. All right, next buy or sell.
All right, here we go. Next buy or sell here is this. The pass rush isn't good enough to be a league average defense.
So I just brought up that they need to be league average or they need to be better going forward. When you're missing your starting quarterback, everyone's going to need to step up just a little bit. So Can the pass rush hold, be better, and be good enough to get this team to be league average? I don't know how long Shamar's out. Do you know how long Shamar's out? Has that been reported?
I think it's very much a week-to-week situation. Okay. Limited in practice. Actually, let's just check right now. We don't need to be spreading any false rumors here. I will look to make sure if he practiced or not. Or if he
I'll
was
buy
out.
time. But
yeah.
The alarm's going off again. Guys, I don't know what's going on with the alarm. There's an emergency. I don't know if that's a gas emergency, because if it was like fire, it'd keep going off. I don't know if you guys can hear it through that. Shamar going down isn't going to help. Needs someone else.
Did not practice, by the way.
Okay, so he's going to miss a couple of weeks. Listen, Joseph Asai, Miles Murray, the pass rush, they're all going to need to be a little bit better. Trey, if you stay on par with what we've seen for the last 4 years with Trey Hendrickson, that's still pretty good. I will actually sell this. I actually have optimistic hope that this pass rush can be good enough to help this defense. Stone?
Yeah, I would agree. Look, it needs to be a lot better. It's very Trey Hendrickson reliant when it comes to their pass rush, but it's shown up at big points throughout these first 2 games. Has it been consistent? No. If you think about the first half against Cleveland, Joe Flacco was just kind of sitting back there picking apart the Bengals defense. Credit to the Bengals, they didn't give up any explosives in that game, which I think really allowed them to win the game, but a lot of stuff was open over the middle. Veteran quarterback Joe Flacco, he kind of was just taking what the Bengals defense was giving him, and it allowed them to make some plays and have some success moving the football. But I do have a lot of belief, obviously, in Trey Hendrickson. I've said it before here on Off the Bench. I think the Bengals are 0-2 without Trey Hendrickson, right? If he's in a situation where he's frustrated with his contract, he decided to sit out. We saw it with Chris Jones of Kansas City a couple of years ago where he missed 1 game. Well, if Trey Hendrickson would have missed 1 game or 2 games, and then the Bengals said, oh, shoot, we have to pay him, and then paid him, like, for instance, this week, it would be too late, especially with Joe Burrow being out. So I have a lot of belief in Trey Hendrickson. And, yeah, you look at the other side of it, I think what Shamar Stewart has been able to do has been promising from a young rookie. He showed up and been able to get some pressure on the opposing quarterback through a couple of games this year. Has the ankle, as we alluded to, did not practice, has not practiced yet this week. He's kind of on a week-to-week basis. I probably would be surprised if we saw him play. Joseph Osai, he's on that 1-year prove-it deal, right? 1 year, $7.5 million. So he certainly wants to produce. I don't know if I necessarily believe that he can do that, but just with the guys that they have, Cam Sample, of course, another guy, and Miles Murphy, they have some pieces there. They've had those pieces there for a while, and they haven't really been able to show up. But with Trey Hendrickson and with hopefully Shamar Stewart playing more games than not this season, I believe that they will be able to have a good enough pass rush to be a league average defense here at this point. But if Trey Hendrickson, gets hurt, or if he, stops producing at the level in which he's producing, I think you can pretty much throw that away and say, okay, that's not going to happen. But with Trey Hendrickson, there's belief for me.
Yeah, and Shamar's played very, very well when he's been on the field, so we need to get him back. Hopefully he's back. I would say it's incredibly unlikely that he comes back this Sunday, but maybe he'll come back next Monday against the Denver Broncos out there in the Mile High City. Next buy or sell is?
The next buy or sell is this. Zac Taylor's job is safe and sound now.
Yeah, this was a precipitation of kind of the emotions that you were feeling on Monday or Sunday night, depending on when it really hits you hard. And if it was Stone's case, it was Monday night. Others, it was Sunday night. For me, it was Tuesday night when the Joe Burrow news finally settled in. I was too drunk on 2-0 to I was just riding high after we started 2-0 to really let the Joe Burrow stuff settle in. And a lot of the people that are Cincinnati Bengals fans want Zac Taylor gone. Understand why. I think he's a good coach. I think he can do better. I think he's a good coach, and I don't think he's the bane of existence that some lead him to be. I digress. The precipitation of the emotions was that, oh, man, we're not going to get a conclusion on the Zac Taylor saga this year, because we're not. It's safe. It's bye. His job is safe and sound, because when, the reviews come and you sit down with Mike Brown at the end of the year to talk about how you did your job, they can just go, listen, we didn't have Joe this year, so anything that happens isn't because of me. Now, there is a small, I just said bye. His job is safe and sound. I think it's like 95% safe. The only way in which Zac Taylor loses his job is if things go off the rails immensely and they lose like 10 in a row. They lose this Sunday in Minnesota. They lose on Monday in Denver, and then it just boom, 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 loss. They're trading everyone away, and the thing just hides in. All right, let's start over new. That's the only way in which Zac Taylor loses his job. But I think we all knew once we saw Joe Burrow go down, and then the report came out that Joe Burrow was going to miss significant time. We're like, all right, we gave a goal for Zac Taylor this year. We said if they don't make the postseason, he probably should lose his job. Well, that's gone out the window because he has another excuse for why he doesn't make the postseason this year, if that's the case to be. But the other catch here is if the Bengals make the postseason, I mean, you might as well sign up for a Zac Taylor extension. If the Bengals make the postseason this year, Zac Taylor will be here for 3 more years, just point blank. It doesn't matter anything. So I'm buying that his job is safe and sound. What say you, Stone Shields?
Yeah, I'm buying as well. Look, obviously this is an organization that let Marvin Lewis stick around for so long, and he didn't even win playoff games. Zac Taylor obviously has had a tremendous amount of success in the postseason. He found ways to win with a backup quarterback a couple of years ago in 2023. Now we're going to see if he can do it again here in 2025. We can revisit this if the Bengals lose 5 straight games and are like borderline eliminated from the playoffs before we even get to the month of December. That's fine. But for right now, I think he definitely is safe. It was my way of thinking that even if the Bengals with Joe Burrow missed out on the playoffs, a lot of teams, probably 90+% of the teams in the NFL would have fired him, but I didn't think Cincinnati was going to fire him. I think the front office and ownership of the Cincinnati Bengals love Zac Taylor. I think they have complete belief in him and believe that he is the guy to run this team for the foreseeable future and for years to come with Joe Burrow throughout the rest of his career and even beyond that. I think this organization really thinks long-term when they're thinking about Zac Taylor. I know a lot of fans don't love that. I personally disagree. I think Zac Taylor is a perfect guy to be the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I think he's going to be just fine as far as sticking around, unless something disastrous happens, right, where Jake Browning literally can't win a game. You go on this crazy losing streak. You can't put anything together. You can't move the football. You lose the locker room, right? That's another thing that Zac Taylor deserves credit for, is they've obviously had their frustrations over the past couple of years, but he's never lost the locker room. They've always had belief. They've always fought to the end, and they've always played their best football at the end of the season, even without Joe Burrow. That's a consistent theme, really, beyond year one, where they, of course, had the number 1 overall pick in 2020, and, of course, the following year when Joe Burrow got hurt. But beyond that, they played their best football at the end of the season, and there's data that backs that up. That's been happening now since 2021, so that's several years in a row in which that's been the case. Zac Taylor, he's just fine. Again, I know some people don't get fired up about that. Some people disagree with that, but he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, it mirrors the conversation that you have about quarterbacks a lot of the time, like the conversation that people that have a middle-of-the-pack quarterback. You're looking at teams like the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott, who I think can be a top 10 quarterback on certain days. You're looking at, the Dolphins had this with Tua for a while. You're looking at just different areas in the NFL where you're like, yeah, he's a good quarterback. We saw this in Cincinnati for the longest time with Andy Dalton. Yeah, he's a good quarterback. Yeah, he can win games. But you feel like you can do better. That's what Zac Taylor is. He's the Andy Dalton of coaches. You can win with him. There's certainly things to be excited about. You mentioned it, and I said preach when you're talking about how they always fought. That's how I started off Monday's show, is that this team, for whatever reason, you can give Zac Taylor all the flack in the world. There's 2 different times where I'm like, throw a challenge flag, or I can't believe we didn't snap it in the game against Jacksonville. It's like, how does this happen? You can bite your teeth and grit your teeth all you want, but there's certainly things to be excited about when it comes to Zac Taylor as your head coach. You mentioned him. And there's also things that you wish he can do better, and hopefully he does do better into the future. But for better or worse, he's going to be the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals next year, unless the 5% chance that the Cincinnati Bengals season just goes off the rails in a hurry, which I suspect will happen if they don't win one of their next 2 games.
Next, buy or sell. Chase Brown will surpass his 2024 rushing total, which was 990 rushing yards. Almost got to that 1,000-yard point last year, but fell up just short. You buying or selling?
What was his total yards? Because I think what was his receiving? Because I think he was at like 1,400 yards last year.
Let's look.
Yeah, I think will he surpass his 2024 rushing total? Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He didn't get considerable snaps until, week 6? He was fighting with Zach Moss, even though we looked at Chase Brown and we're like, man, Chase Brown just looks so much better than Zach Moss right now. We brought Zach Moss in to be the veteran back. Chase Brown was supposed to be this kind of quicker guy. Zach's gonna run people over. Chase Brown won that job single-handedly, and you're just like, all right, let's keep feeding Chase Brown the ball. So, yes, I will buy that he will surpass 1,000 yards, especially with a backup quarterback. I think we're going to be running the ball a whole lot more. The only way in which he doesn't is an injury.
Yeah, I completely agree. It looks like 360 receiving yards for Chase Brown last year, so that's 1,350 total yards, scrimmage yards.
That's a really good year, man.
For Chase Brown. Yeah, I think my prediction coming into the year was that he was kind of going to become a household name around the NFL, or fans even outside of Cincinnati are like, oh, this running back in Cincinnati, he's the real deal. We'll see without Joe Burrow if that can necessarily come to fruition, but I completely agree. He's going to become more of a focal point in this offense without Joe Burrow. I think even with Joe Burrow, they were going to plan to use him a lot this year. Hopefully, obviously, he can stay healthy. But with Jake Browning, you're going to see a lot more under-snap stuff, right? Play-action game from under center. When Browning was the quarterback through that stretch in 2023, I believe he was in the gun about between 70 and 75% of the time, and Joe Burrow's in the gun over 90% of the time. So that's going to switch. You're going to see some more under-center stuff with Jake Browning. Try to open up that play-action game. And Chase Brown, he's got great speed. He's got great short area quickness running in between the tackles. And as we saw at the end of the Jacksonville game, he's incredible out of the backfield catching the football. And again, 360 receiving yards last year as well. He's going to be a security blanket for Jake Browning here throughout the rest of this season as someone that he can go to as far as checkdowns go if guys aren't open down the football field. So we talked about how critical Jamar Chase is going to be for this offense, obviously, with no Joe Burrow. But the next guy that I look to besides the quarterback would probably be Chase Brown. The Bengals need him to be really, really good. And if he can stay healthy, I anticipate he will be able to do just that.
I like Chase Brown a lot.
Me too.
A long time ago, I made takes on this show, which I think when I made the take, I was right. But now it's kind of moving because the game shifts and it's cyclical and it moves around. That I said, like, running backs aren't that important. It's, for whatever reason, that position you can replace with a third, fourth rounder. I think Chase Brown was a fourth rounder. Might have been a third. You can replace your Joe Mixon, who was maybe the best running back in the history of this franchise. I mean, he's certainly on the short list. Corey Dillon. There's other names up there, but like he's on the short list of greatest running backs in this franchise's history. And you draft a fourth rounder, and Chase Brown looks really good. And then in a couple of years, we'll probably have to draft another guy that'll replace Chase Brown, and it'll probably be okay. For whatever reason, that position, I do think he can get elite now. I think the game's gonna shift back towards running, as after linebackers and safeties got a little smaller because the game got more pass heavy. That's where we're at currently right now, and we're seeing the best teams in the league, the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles, really focus on power and moving it inside the box. And now we're going to have linebackers get a little more bulkier and safeties get a little more bulkier, and then all of a sudden we're going to go back to passing the ball, and it's cyclical. It's punch, counter punch. It's a boxing match here between the offense and defense in the National Football League. Final question for buy or sell on the Bengals, then we got to do ad read, so we'll do it quick.
Buy or sell, the linebacker room is improved.
Yeah, buy. Demetrius Knight has impressed me probably more than any rookie thus far. He's obviously gotten the most run. He has, without a doubt, impressed me the most. When it comes to linebacker play, frequently, I don't have a one-to-one comparison. I want to do an analogy. But you remember linebackers more when they miss tackles. Like when a linebacker's doing his job, it's oftentimes not a big deal. It's almost like a guard in the way that, like, when a guard's just doing his job, you're better off not noticing them on the field. Yeah, you can make a big play. Logan Wilson, you can strip a fumble, you can make an interception, you can have a huge hit. Sometimes they even blitz and you can get after the quarterback. They can make big plays, but more often than not, a linebacker is best when you don't notice them a whole lot. And Demetrius Knight, you haven't noticed many flubs. You haven't missed many big tackles in the same way that I thought Jermaine Pratt missed a lot of big tackles last year. Logan Wilson also has played better this year, so that's an improvement to the linebacker room. Really quickly, buy or sell on this one?
Yeah, I'm buying this as well. Logan Wilson is better than he was the past couple of years. He looks healthier. He looks quicker. And I think that certainly is very beneficial for Cincinnati. Jermaine Pratt, he's a Cincinnati Bengals legend for what he did in the playoffs. Always will be, but it kind of had run its course. It was time to, turn over a new leaf there at that linebacker position. Al Golden comes in. He gets 2 draft picks. Demetrius Knight, of course, has been great. And, Barrett Carter coming in as a backup that first game when Logan Wilson got hurt. I think Barrett Carter also has a future with this football team as well. They got a lot younger. They got a lot quicker. And just because they have youth doesn't mean that they have immaturity. Those 2 guys played a ton of college football at Clemson for Barrett Carter, and obviously Demetrius Knight jumped around to different places, finished out at South Carolina. But they're rookies, but they feel a lot more mature and professional than that. And I think they've really done a nice job of developing into NFL players, and I think they're only going to get better as time goes on. Clear buy here for me.